Yeah, guide us, Chadruva. Clarity on which path to choose in the data science field. Yes, that is the agenda. What is the future of data science? Yeah, that's the good question. Clarity on how much math really required for data science. Okay. Proper roadmap for pursuing career in data science. Okay. How to switch as a data engineer, and is it a good role considering future prospects and salary? Okay. So one common concern that I will try to address here. So there is concern about what is the future of data science, right? That is one thing, and then there is what is the pathway to data science. I will cover the pathway to data science. So let me also address the future of data science part. So, for example, if we had like, have you ever imagined that the world will be filled with technology, right? Everything that we are doing, like there is so much technology involved in it. So that was one revolution in terms of technology. So now what is the revolution of AI? So AI has pretty much entered every field. So like some of you might have already aware of it. Like whether you choose the mechanical field or whether you choose a like in any industry wherever there is a manual intervention needed, whether it's commerce or medicine or take any field, whether there is a mechanical process which is involved or whether there is an intelligent decision making that is involved. So there is scope for expanding AI pretty much in every industry. So like this is also like some of the CEO has emphasized on. So this is one area where it will become like a bread and butter. AI will become like a bread and butter in those industries. So like every thing which we were doing manually or every rudimentary task will be replaced by the AI. So that's why, for example, if you log into any banking website or any website, any product for that matter, there will be chatbot immediately popping up asking, "Oh, what do you want to do?" Right. So if we wouldn't have imagined that that kind of intelligent system would be replacing the humans for simple tasks like for small getting started or small support kind of tasks, it's pretty much replaced everywhere, right? If you see recommendation systems, the personal recommendation system, so these functionalities have become like the expected behavior pretty much in every segment. So what I would see is like take any task. Like now, if you take the art also, right? So AI is generating music, AI is generating using GANs. Now it is also generating art and whatnot, right? So that is one reason why I believe that there is scope for more jobs in AI in the future. So some of them will be like some of the tasks are already streamlined. So for which people will be using the existing technology, and some tasks there is still so much innovation that can happen. So there will be more requirement from starting from the scratch or more exploration or more research kind of thing. Is there any? Okay, so I'm reading your questions. So what I will do is I'll start the presentation. I'll give a break after every 10 minutes and then we can take the questions one by one. So yeah, this is my introduction. Just remember all the things that I have mentioned here. So you will have a quiz after that. You'll remember what all things that I do. So yeah, so I worked with Microsoft for almost like 18 years. Um, Within Microsoft also, I have played multiple roles. I will cover that part. And so right now for the last 1.5 years, I'm like due to some personal and like medical constraints, I'm working for limited hours. And then during this limited hours, one thing that I really enjoy is like mentoring and talking to multiple people. So yeah, I'm doing it like I have tied up with like 4 or 5 different organizations, and like I'm having this pleasure of talking to people from different backgrounds, understand their concerns and all. And this is one thing that I'm enjoying. Apart from that, I also teach. for few institutes. And also, I'm writing a course for one of the biggest course content platform. And also, I like writing short stories. I'm also restarted my journey with the music. So yes, pretty much lot of things are happening at this moment. So let me start with, okay, why do we need to upskill, right? So considering, I will share my experience with Microsoft for such long career path for 18 years. Of course, better pay. The compensation is better, and better culture. By culture, I mean here the culture of the company. So it's all about whether there is a clarity on the vision, like how much clarity we have on what the future will be, what the growth of the company will be, or considering the people that we work with. That is the most important aspect. Like everyone that I worked with in my journey, like there is something or the other to take away from every person, and we have grown. Like my personal growth has happened from the people that I have interacted. So there was always something to look forward to. And of course, the kind of opportunities that we got, opportunities that we were provided. So it was all challenging. So if I consider myself, how I was like 18 years before when I started my career versus where I am today, there is so much growth that happened, that purely because of the experience that I went through. And people call it work-life balance. I'm calling life-work balance because I want to put life in the front seat. So there are times at which we want to be aggressive, grow in the career. There are also times at which we want to slow down because of the other priorities in life. And yeah, this company has provided me that level of work-life balance. Whenever I needed, I could tone down or I could push that aggressive button whenever I wanted to. And of course, job satisfaction part. The most important thing, if you are spending like 8 9 hours in a day in some company or working for an organization, are we getting that satisfaction? There were very high points like when I shipped Windows 7 or Windows 10, or like integration of Windows 10 with Bing, or when I worked on the agricultural project. I used to send these receive these emails from the farmers. So those are some of the high points in my career when it had given me tremendous job satisfaction. So I'm not saying that, oh, this company is good or this company is great here. I'm saying that target for the company which provides these kind of parameters for the growth. So yeah, I will also share a personal story. So I initially, after completing my MTech in IIT Bombay, I was placed in a company for 3 months, and it was like I did not enjoy the working in that company because one, I felt that there was much more that I could do, but I was not given enough opportunities. And secondly, the team around me, like I felt like, oh, they were all much more relaxed, and they are like, ye karenge, we will do it in a 10 days, or we will do it in 20 days. So but then there was so much fire in me at that point in time. I wanted to do so much. So yeah, so Microsoft was not coming to campus at that point in time, way back in 2003. So no one from my network, like none of my seniors or juniors, none of them worked in Microsoft. So I went all the way alone to Delhi, traveled there, did my bit research. Like it used to be like 20 rupees or 30 rupees per half an hour. That was the internet charge that point in time. So I went to a cyber cafe, explored like what kind of questions will be asked, and there was very limited knowledge at that point in time, even in the internet. And yeah, after giving 4 interviews, I got through Microsoft. And of course, that was one of the high point in my life. And yeah, the pay wise, it was like 50%, and the work wise, it was so satisfying. There was so much to learn, there was so much to contribute. So that was like one of the reason why I feel that all of us should strive to achieve something bigger. All of us should have this thing to grow in our career path. But after it, reaching there, it's definitely not the climax point, right? So similar to movies, right? There will be movie where both of them will hero and heroine will fall in love and they will get married. That is the climax, but that's not the climax. So even after getting into the company, for there will be changes, trends in the technology. For every 3 years to 5 years, we have to keep re-evaluating ourselves, keep upskilling ourselves, figure out what is the area within the company or outside the company, what are the opportunities. So uh, we cannot relax after getting placed into these companies as well. So I will share you my journey here. So yeah, I started my journey as software design engineer in test, which means like we used to build these complex automation systems. Like I started with the storage domain, so we used to build these complex tape or disk related systems. So that was the first enterprise product that Microsoft has shipped. So it was very challenging. Like remove the manual intervention, simulate the tape or storage environment, and then identify the issues with that. And I also worked as test lead for Windows 7. So when Windows 7 was shipped, like the backup and restore part in the Windows system, like when your system gets toasted, how do we recover it back? So there were multiple scenarios in that. So I led the team for automating. So in the Windows, the quality was very super important. So we have to write automation covering all functionalities robustly within that short time. So yeah, and testing these complex scenarios. So it was the challenging part. And then I like I said, the trend was moving towards the services. So I shifted to being search engine as software engineer. And then I also served as test manager for Bing UX for some time. And then again, I felt that okay, software in the data science. I also worked on some data part in the initial phases when I worked in the software engineer aspect. But then, yeah, so when I felt that there is so much happening in the machine learning field at the early stages of machine learning, I switched to being a data scientist there. So, okay, this is the first thing that we mentioned in the thing, like what is the choice? So what is the actual role description? What is X versus what is Y? What is the difference between the different roles? This is one common question that I been asked in multiple mentoring sessions. So let's address the elephant in the room. So software engineer versus data engineer. So software engineer, this has been the traditional role since ages or since decades. So this is like someone who will, and then the technologies will keep changing, but the bottom line is someone who can build the product end to end. Someone who can start with understanding the product and then convert it to implementation, whether it's like building a service or building a UX layer or building, understanding the whole thing and shipping the product. So that is the software engineer responsibility. So data engineer is something which is being evolved recently. So because there is lot of data, of course, and there are a lot of database technologies also. Each company stores the data in a different form, in different manner. So data engineer is someone who can understand the data more, understand how to fetch the data, understand how to streamline the data, and finally how to build this any prediction that they want to build, develop, or and finally deploy it. So someone who can make this data publish end-to-end data story, if they can build, that is the so someone who has more understanding about how to process different databases, how to store different databases, so how to model the different databases, how to derive insights from it. So that is the data engineer role. So now you might ask, like, what is the difference between data engineer versus data analyst? So data analyst, I would consider as an early stage of career path where they will be given data and then they have to understand the data. They have to, for example, measure how good the quality of the data is, like what are processing that is needed for the data, and then generate insights which is easily understandable by anyone. Whereas data engineer will do much more than a data analyst. So they also understand the insights. On top of it, they will automate in such a way that these insights will keep happening on daily or weekly basis as per the business needs. So for example, if we take the e-commerce segment, so there is a daily data that is coming in, right? So how do we build these automation systems that the whole thing flows seamlessly. So now the third point is data scientist versus data engineer. One thing for caution is like in many company job descriptions, they are not strictly following this adherence, like strictly following this criteria. Some would say that data annotators also as data analyst, and some companies will list data scientist also as data analyst. So I would say don't just go by the description, the title. Read and understand the job description, and then accordingly understand what is the compensation. Don't try to map the title to compensation. So now the third point is data scientist versus data engineer. So that, like I said, data engineer is like some emerging role. One, because some of the data scientist roles, like when we started data scientist, like not everything is very clear. For example, when I worked on topic modeling for Windows 10, it was not called topic modeling. It was a new problem. So when more and more people started working on similar problems, there is like one common solution which is available. So now everything which is definite, starting from data fetching to data publishing, whatever is the definite path, that can be done by the data engineer. Whereas data scientist is like someone who needs to do the data analyst path, data engineer path, plus deal with ambiguity also. For sometimes we will be solving the problems which are still not solved. So we have to read the research papers, try some experiments, and figure out how that needs to be done, understand the whole system design, and then they can delegate some of the tasks to data engineer or data analyst, but then they are responsible for making the end-to-end feature happen. So that I would call it as a clear differentiation. Like I said, again, there are few changes in the job title and job description. So I would say read the job description to understand what exactly is the role that they are expecting. And so I would say, like, if you enjoy definitive path, like if you are given that, okay, this is the problem you need to solve and this is how you solve it, and you are good at implementing, then data engineering is the right career path for you. Whereas you like dealing with ambiguity, or you don't want a clear path, you are good at taking the ambiguity and streamlining the problem, then data scientist is the good choice for you, career choice for you. And finally, researcher versus engineer. Someone says that I want to be researcher versus I want to be engineer. Again, this is the difference between like researcher is someone who enjoys reading the research papers and publishing research papers, whereas data scientist also somewhat some part of their work is also this. Whereas engineer is someone who enjoys building systems, who is good with coding, who has good implementation techniques, and like they want to see the end goal as I shipped this product or I built this product. Whereas researcher is someone who wants to go deep in a specific area, know more about it. So yeah, AI provides opportunities in both the spaces. So I would also like I will ask this question for you. Like, okay, what are some of the responsibilities that you expect in the data scientist role? What is that your expectation from the data scientist role? If you can type in, okay, to collect the data, read research papers, okay, to analyze the data, okay, yeah, Ishita, collect and clean the data to make ML models. Yeah. Okay. EDA, model building. Okay. Okay. Data gathering. Yeah. So most of you have answered some part of the other. Yeah. Making visualizations, work on automation. So if we see the whole pipeline building, it starts with data fetching. So the data can reside anywhere. We could do web scraping, or you do data annotation, or use Selenium to scrape, or there are a lot of ETL tools. So data fetching from most of these tools is the first aspect of data scientist. Then data storage. Data can be stored in any of these forms like SQL, NoSQL, MongoDB, Cloud, Azure. Like there are a lot of places where the big data Hadoop. So understanding how to store the data and how to retrieve the data, why this particular database needs to be used for this specific problem, that is the data storage aspect. Then yeah, data processing. This is like the engineering aspect of it, like EDA or NumPy, Pandas, Python, or any other language, understanding NLTK or OpenCV, dealing with text data or image data, the data processing phase. And then data modeling phase, when we will use different machine learning frameworks or statistical modeling frameworks to build the modeling, build the prediction models or generative models or those things. And finally, deployment. So deployment using any of these or deployment to Azure cloud, any of these will fall. And reporting also. This is also like very important aspect where you will also present the insights that you have discovered doing this whole exercise. Yeah, this is the real job description of data scientist. But yeah, so most of the time we will spend on data cleaning, and yeah, this is the reality. Even robots have to do data cleaning. So yeah, these are some of the example tasks that I did during my experience. So, for example, these are some of the tasks done by data scientist slash data analyst slash data engineer. So these are some of the tasks. So, for example, verify email extraction. There was one feature where you can extract the content of the email and then add reminders to the user. So that was one small feature. And in this, the task of the data analyst was to figure out whether the email extraction was happening perfectly or not. So immediately we cannot build an automation for this. First, we need to understand the problem, understand what we need to validate. So that is where there will be ambiguity. The second problem was validating the venue address against the verb. When we were building the events team, so the providers used to provide the venue address, but there were so many issues with the venue address. It was not good. So how do we know that the address is correct? So we have to scrape in the web, go to the corresponding venue, official venue page, and then match whether this address is working or not. So again, this is not a straightforward problem. People store addresses in different formats. Understanding that and building an automation which will work on scale on thousands of these things. So this will be one of the tasks of a data engineer or data scientist, because like they will have to do it on scale. So it will not be on the sample. Similarly, measuring quality of data from the provider. So initially, whether it's a data scientist or data analyst or whoever it is, they have to understand what is the meaning of quality, and they need to come up with a metric to measure the success of it. For example, when we worked on the shopping segment, we need to understand whether the metadata is correct, the specifications of that particular product is correct, the pricing is correct. Some of them are static, so we can again scrape the web or use multiple sources to validate the data. But then some things like dynamic pricing. So how do we validate that, right? So there are different challenges involved, and it changes from problem to problem. That is again one space where there will be ambiguity. So these are some similarly the other aspects, different aspects of the problem. When I worked on the agricultural project, how do we visualize agricultural data per pest? Like what are the factors that this particular pest incident is related to? So these are some of the aspects, and sometimes it's also like processing, like filling the missing price values for the product, or um, understanding business metrics like user engagement. So when we ship the feature, there will be A/B testing, and from the A/B testing, we'll first do I get the engagement metrics for a sample of product. Only percentage of the product will be productionized, and from that we will try to get the user engagement patterns. How much is the click ratio, or how much is the how many fans are there for this particular product, whether there is a revenue increment or not. So there are multiple business metrics that we need to understand to measure whether the product is a success or not. Yeah, so I will take few questions. Age is a criteria for the job, Lavanya? No, definitely not. Age is definitely not a criteria. It's all about how much we learn and how much appetite we have for the learning. That's all matters. Ajinka Desai, I'm a mobile cross-platform application developer transitioning to data science. Okay. See, I will share the broad overview of what is required in the profile building or portfolio building. If you have specific questions that we can, which is like your scenario is a specific scenario, that we can discuss it later. GATE is required for MTech from IITs. Okay. This is an answer, not question. How do I get into Microsoft as a data scientist? Yeah, I will share that in the last session, in the last slide. Regarding the current scenario, can we expect jobs in the market in this domain? See, it's not specific to domain. There is a slowdown across the board right now. So that's why I believe that this is the right time for people to invest and be ready with the upskilling. So whenever the market opens, you will be ready with the skill set. And usually, if you are thinking of transitioning, I would suggest for people to continue within the current company and then try to start thinking about the transition, do the upskilling part right now, and then you will be much more ready whenever the opportunity opens. And yeah, I have been through 3 recessions during my cycle. Like there were multiple recessions cycles also in Microsoft. So each recession will teach us something new, and this is like whatever news that we are hearing for the last 3 days is like very bad, one after the other. Looking at the LinkedIn post, it's very upsetting. But I would say that during the first phase, when like in 2001, I went through the first recession hit. Like I got a campus placement after completing BTech, but then I still continued with my studies and gave my GATE and got into IIT. So that company had given the job only after 1.5 months by the time when I graduated. So that is why in these uncertain environments, it's important to be upskilling. So and be ready. I would say that don't think about company and don't work for a company. Think about yourself, how you are upskilling yourself and how confident you are becoming. Once we are confident and once we have reached that stage, it's easy. Like right now, for example, I have received a job position yesterday also on LinkedIn. So I keep receiving these messages from multiple people. It's all because we have to build a brand for ourselves. So once we build a brand for ourselves, once we work for ourselves and make ourselves proud, then the opportunities will come in. So I wouldn't say that target for a specific company, target for yourself. See where you want to see in next 1 year or 2 years, and then there will be market will be better in a year or so, and then you will be much more ready. And yeah, so been through these phases in the career, so there will be a little bit slowdown, but then when it comes up, there will be more openings, and be prepared for that is an important aspect. Okay, I will take the last question from Bhargavi. I want to develop my own model, but instead of taking data set from internet, can we scrape any website, or is any rule for scraping website or apps that don't encourage web scraping? Yeah, so there will be bots obviously, so we cannot hit them heavily. And also we also have to consider the copyright issues. We cannot we need to understand what is the copyright issue of the particular company, and then if they are open, then only we have to do it. For example, if you want to work on real data sets, there is Government India website. There are a lot of real data sets there. So there is a medical data set which is hosted by MIT. So there are a lot of options. So right now, the other aspect that people are also concerned about is the responsible AI. So are you really using it for good purpose or using for bad purpose? So we have to actually discuss and understand whether what are the regulations involved in using the data, and then only we can use it. Can I already do existing project by adding some uniqueness, or should I come up with totally new concept for an interview? See, there are two ways to do it. One, in the interview, they will focus on how much depth you understand about a specific concept. So even though you do some I wouldn't encourage you to take the normal projects like the mostly popular projects which are like Titanic data set or those kind of things which are available in everyone's resume. Try to be unique in the project description, and it need not be completely unique even if you work with some data but your technique is different, or you understood like what all the different aspects that are involved in the project. You demonstrate the depth during the interviews, and then you clearly come up with a new idea and say, oh, this one is perhaps a better solution because I have tried 1 2 3 4 5. That demonstrates your knowledge and understanding of the system, and that is also one aspect that will be advantageous for you. Yeah, so I will share another example which I worked on while building a commerce pipeline. So so this was one of the commerce segments for Bing Shopping, if you heard of Bing Shopping. So this was one of the early pipelines of Bing Shopping when we transitioned it from Redmond to India. So I took the ownership of the entire module. So this one is one classic example of different roles and responsibilities of different people. So initially, we had to do data fetching, like the different merchants upload their data in different formats. So we have to uh, either understand the aggregators, get the data from them. So this is all about understanding their system and getting the data and keeping it in our system. And then the other aspect is data cleaning and aggregation. So everyone will have a different schema. For example, someone would call dresses as dresses, or someone would call it gowns. Like, so we need to understand different categories. So everyone's taxonomy is different. Everyone is category is different. So we need to come up with a unified schema and then fit all the products into that schema. And whatever data cleaning is needed, there will be a lot of noise in the data, in the images, or in the text, or in the pricing. So doing all sorts of cleaning. And then classification. So once we bring them into one unified schema saying, oh, this is a shopping segment, or this is a electronic segments, or whatever, right? So there will be multiple levels of classification involved. So one at the high level, and then second one is at the lower level. So within the clothing, like this is the dress segment, or this is the pant segment, right? Bottom wear or top wear. Coming up with the taxonomy and then classifying the products into those classes. So that is the whole product classification about. And then there will be deduplications, like there will be a lot of duplicate products coming from different sources. So when we have to show like one single product, we cannot show like 3 yellow gowns which look very similar but coming from 3 different merchants. Instead we have to aggregate their offer prices. We have to show like 1 2 3, these are the different offer prices available, but the product will be unique. So how do we do the deduplication, right? So one from the metadata or from the image. So we need to come up with that. And then attribute enrichment. Sometimes the provider will have very or minimal information about the attribute. So how can we look at the other similar offers, or using the web or other medium to figure out the missing specifications and enrich that product attribute with that. And finally, eventually publishing it. So at every phase of this life cycle, initially it will be the task of a data analyst. Data analysts need to understand how to fetch the data, or what is if we talk about cleaning, first we need to identify what all the problems are there, right? Coming up with the measurement, like what is the status of this data, what is the quality of the data. And then in the product classification, initially when we build a product classification, we need to understand what all different products are there, what are the guidelines to place a specific product into a specific category. There will be border lines also, so we need to understand like which product goes to which category, coming up with clear guidelines. And then when we build the first model, we need to understand what is the accuracy of it. How do we measure the success of the classification? So that is the job of the data analyst or data scientist or data engineer in the initial phases. And similarly, in the product deduplication, how do we measure the deduplication is good? What all different metrics that we need to use, or what all the kind of issues that we foresee? So when we understood each and every piece and built an individual module, so some of them will require modeling and some of them don't need modeling. Some of them will be like engineering parts of it. So the data engineer is someone who will bind all the pieces together and build that end-to-end pipeline. So they will write these alerts or whatever is monitoring is needed whenever something fails, and then the corrective action needs to be taken. Either it's retraining or fixing some issue with the code or fixing issue with merchant. So there are multiple action items depending on that. So the data scientist is someone who comes up with this idea, like, okay, these are the different things that we need to do, and within each block they need to come up with this, like, how to take that concept into implementation. We take product classification, starting with like how the taxonomy should look like, how to come up with these guidelines, what kind of model to build, and eventually how do we measure the success of it. The whole thing is the responsibility of the data scientist. So when we build all of these pieces together, then yeah, this is similar to any e-commerce platform that you see, right? There will be changes here and there, like with any new technology. There were example, there was not much of image technology at that point in time, so we used to rely on metadata. Now the image technology is there, so Amazon, for example, uses a lot of these images to for multiple techniques. So with every new technology that's coming in, we need to again reevaluate these blocks and see what all changes that we need to do, right? The whole whether we need to, or similarly there will be changes in the data also. Like there was no concept of some electronic equipment which is now available. Like how do we incorporate those new class of products into our system? So it requires retraining of the model with new data, right? So that's all. So it's not one thing is like first coming up with these concepts and then building this pipeline, and then how do we make this pipeline robust for any changes, or how does it keep learning with every change that is happening in the surrounding environment. Okay, so I will ask this basic question. So I want to understand from you, like, what is the role of a mentor? This is like classic training question, A, B, C, D, and looking at the questions, you might have guessed it. But I want to just emphasize the importance of a mentor. So sometimes we need them to be sounding board. So someone who will just listen to us and um, we don't expect anything from them, but we just want them to listen, right? So I had the privilege of having such good mentors. Like whenever I was in that firing mode, I used to go and sit with them. After talking to them, it used to bring a lot of peace within me. So sometimes we want to do something and then we cannot do it, so that's what brings that friction in us. So mentor is someone who understands our state of mind without judging, and then gives us time to think, and they will make us think what is the right approach to come back into the situation, right? So that is the importance of sounding board, and someone who makes you realize strengths and weaknesses. So I strongly believe in this one. So I had the privilege of working with a very good mentor who was like very honest and brutal with me in terms of this is your strength and this is your weakness, and you have to work on the weakness. Either you play with your strengths or you work on your weakness. That is the only way to achieve our success. So the most important thing for each of us is understand what is our strength and what is our weakness. Once we understand it with clarity, then like we will understand how to achieve our dreams. How do we tie these things together? And of course, drive it towards your goal. So they are someone who will make sure that we reach the goal, and then they will be only happy when we reach those goals. So through the my mentoring journey also, I had an opportunity to work with some very bright minds through pre-placed. So so one of them, like, she was an entrepreneur, and then she was working on edtech platform. And after this mentoring session, now she started with a project, and now she's also thinking to bring it up online. And one person, like, now he's joined a finance domain at a higher level. And one person got placed in Meta, but unfortunately, due to these things, his job is on holding state right now. But that's what gives us happiness at the end of it, right? We know this person, we connect to this person, and eventually when they reach the goal, that is when we get the real satisfaction. So yeah, I've received this question from multiple people, like, oh, this is my background and this is my current status. What is the guidance? So this is the roadmap. So I have made it three buckets: basic, intermediate, and advanced, at a high level. So for example, someone who is coming from non-IT background, not no coding experience. So my guidance here is, like, take the guided courses and practice more coding. For example, if you are completely new to IT, completely new to engineering discipline, like, I have interacted with people from all sorts of backgrounds, and now they are trying to move to the data analyst or data science profile. So this is my suggestion, like, take the guided courses, because if you try to do it on your own, it will take a longer term, and also you will lose motivation after some point. So by guided courses, I mean something which is already there are a lot of courses available in the market. So try to take something which will give you certification and uh, placement support. And it would my like, from what I have seen, it would take around 1 to 2 years for you to come to the intermediate stage from there. So the other thing that you could try is, once you are comfortable with the basics of, like, SQL or reporting structure, then you can start joining the data analyst career path, and then within your company also you can try to grow. So that is one guidance for me. And for people who are in intermediate zone, so these are, like, people who have some coding experience. They are working on different disciplines in IT field. For example, someone who might be in testing or support or software engineer, and then they want to move to this particular domain. So it's depending on you, like, whether you want to choose a guided course, or you can also opt for self-learning. So if you opt for self-learning, I can provide the resources for you, and then you can go through the plan, or you can choose the guided courses as well. So one thing, like, I also receive these kind of mentees, like, they have taken these courses, but they also need some practical project experience. So I'm also working with few people to get their build the projects from the scratch. So if you are at intermediate level, I can also help you with, and you have learned the courses. So I can provide you the profile building or the plan initially, and then you can take like 6 months or so to learn all the concepts that were given to you. And then when you want to work on the project, I can also help you with the project. And in the advanced phase, you're already data engineer or data scientist in small or medium sized company, and you're targeting for a higher role. So here I can help you, like, self-paced learning is sufficient for you. If at all, if you're in the data engineering domain, I would suggest that you do cloud certification or certifications which are provided by the company itself, which will be more valued. And then you can do a lot of self-paced learning. I can provide the resources for it. And uh, I would suggest that you go deeper and practical oriented problems, like, the not at the surface level. For example, you have to pick up some new and new territory where there is a lot of research happening, and then demonstrate your depth of understanding. For some of the examples could be like either take the GANs, for example, like there is a lot of advancement in the generative techniques, or graph neural networks. There is a lot of work that is happening there. Or, for example, transformer-based techniques, right? So transfer speech to text understanding or translation services. These are some of the areas where there will be a lot of work in the next 5-6 years. There has been a lot of work happening, but still we will not get into the state where we can understand, like, the translation systems are not 100% perfect. There are a lot of issues with the human speech or human language understanding. So those are some of the areas that you might want to pick up and build a solid profile on that. And get in-depth knowledge. That is my advice. Whatever skill that you pick up, whatever area that you pick up, get in-depth knowledge and follow active research. Like, understand what is going on. You need not, like, one thing is, one common issue with most of us is like the FOMO, right? When you open LinkedIn, there will be a lot of information, and sometimes we feel that, I don't know this, or there is so much happening there. My advice is, we need not know everything because there is so much happening in this space. So pick up one area, either it is NLP or within NLP also, either speech or text understanding or translation or computer vision or video technologies or multimodal technologies, right? That is one trend that is coming up, which will cover all of them. Or generative techniques. Pick up one of them and keep in them. So you need not know everything, but pick up one, understand the breadth of all of these. Okay, what is the concept involved in transformers, or what is the concept involved in diffusion models? Understand at a conceptual level, not necessarily at implementation level, but take one area, go deep, and be very confident in that particular area. Understand all the active research that's happening, and do some implementation projects there, and that would add a lot of value to you. So that is my guidance. So if you need any help in that self-paced learning or deeper projects, build solid profile, or get in-depth knowledge, right? So there I can provide you the guidance. So these are some of the packages that I support. I have taken around 50 plus sessions and around 11 mentees for different. So usually each of them will have a different background, and then their requirement is different. So my idea is like personalized plan. So understand your requirement, and then I will suggest what is the suitable career path, or what is the right roadmap for you. So right now, I have reduced the, like, 30 minutes, and you can book a consultation session with pre-play. So I have, for next 10 slots, I have reduced it to 750 per session till the end of this month. So if you want to do one-on-one consultation, if you have a personalized questions, you can reach out to me. And the interview preparation plan is also there, which is like 1 month support. So I have kept it for 5,000 now. So you can get 2 1-hour sessions per month, and you can get the Slack messaging support for the whole month. So you can choose, like, if you want more customized requirement, or you want to get more guidance. These are the options that you can choose. And these are, like, two things are my philosophy: go deep per skill, and empower each individual. So my philosophy is like, you should feel empowered, rather than I will give you like 1 2 3 4 5, read these questions, these will come in the interview. That's not the plan. I will make sure that you go deep in that area, and then you will get that confidence that you will ace any interview. So it's not specific to one specific skill set. So yeah, I'll cover the resume part. So these are the important things in the profile building: resume, LinkedIn profile, GitHub profile, and also online presence. Especially for machine learning, this is one area which is important to stay with your active research or with your blogging, knowledge sharing. Show that you have command in the subject. That also helps, whether it in terms of publishing research papers or in terms of creating courses or any of the medium which demonstrates your depth in that specific area. That also adds a lot of. So I have helped people with reviewing their individual profiles and help strengthening that. And this is the preparation process, profile building, and then skill building. So I'll provide resources and then I will take mock interviews. That will help the individual understand how much depth the conceptual understanding is needed. And in some cases, projects, like how to strengthen their profile by adding more projects. So these are the common issues, lot of topics to cover: breadth versus depth, application orientation. So application orientation is also needed because in the interview they will assess like how you did the project, why you did the project in certain way. And if you go for a higher companies, especially if you go as an experienced person, system design is also very important. And there will be coding rounds also. Of course, the projects. One of the main concerns for many people who are applying for this area is the projects, like how do I build a good project? So as per ODSC, this is the recent information, like these are the top skills. So if you are applying for data science or data engineer roles, I would suggest that pick one of these, like Python or R, SQL, of course. Take one of the cloud technologies, especially very important if you are applying for data engineering role, AWS or Azure. And some people don't believe that TensorFlow should be up, PyTorch should be up. Any of these are good. I personally believe PyTorch should be above the TensorFlow. And Hadoop. You can pick like one programming language, one database, one cloud technology, one machine learning technology, and some on the scheduling and deployment part. So this is the interview process for data scientist. For most of the companies, I try to come up with some common strategy. For Microsoft or product-based companies, there will be DSA rounds and there will be DSML theory or practical knowledge questions. So DSML theory would contain machine learning or deep learning. So project is super important there. In some companies, the medium-sized companies, there will be questions on SQL or Python specific questions also, and there will be case studies. So these days people hand over the case studies to them. They will ask them to come up with a solution, and then once you solve that problem, then you are in. So there are different ways in which people, innovative ways in which people are doing the interviews these days. So this is like pretty much summary of the interview process. And yeah, these are some of the detailed modular skill sets. So Python specific knowledge, SQL knowledge, DSA specific, statistics, machine learning, deep learning, system design, especially for senior folks, profile building, project. And I would also help with like, once you finish this, I can share job openings via different, which I receive via different forums and different communities. So my mantra is like take 1 month, one skill at a time. Either you can do self-learning, or if you need some help with the guidance, you can opt that monthly preparation plan. You can choose like which one you want to be want to get stronger, and then we can work on that particular skill set. So yeah, that is the end of the session. After completion of masters in IIT Bombay, which company you placed? No, it's not data science related company. Data science did not even evolve at that point. I mean, it was a service oriented company. I will not name that company for. How are chances of landing an abroad job offer for a data engineer role? Yes, there are chances. So I'm mentoring someone who is in Canada right now. So he is saying that there are a lot of data engineer jobs there, and they are more skill specific. Like, do you know Airflow or do you know ETL tools? Those are more important in the data engineer role. Can companies take freshers as data science? Yes. Yes. Yesterday, I have in fact seen one job description from my company. They said, we don't worry about what your background is. If you just solve this problem, you are in. I have career gap. I'm not getting calls. How to deal? So I would suggest that you have to address the career gap. So one other good thing in the machine learning is you can also evolve as an individual freelancing data scientist. You can also do some projects, good projects, create content. So that's one way. Do you mentor candidates with 7 years of experience for senior roles as well? Can you share like what is your current designation? What is the one-on-one mentorship for intermediate person? So one-on-one mentorship would be I will share this skills. So if you are completely new to machine learning, I will give you some time to come back and prepare. I will give you overview of summary like what all things need to be covered, how that needs to be covered, share the resources. And once you are comfortable with that self-learning, you can come back and I can help you with the project. As every role is getting automated, how data science is a good career in the age of AI? See, one thing is, like I said, data science has vast role in multiple fields. So there are a lot of areas in which there is still no automation. For example, I worked in the agricultural space. There is a lot of scope for automating there because of the vague and because of the data collection issues or the knowledge issues or the reach issues. Still, it is not penetrated to the level that we could have imagined. Similarly, in the medical domain, there is a lot of scope for automation there. It has just started, and there is so much more to do there. So I believe that this amalgamation is something which is very unique. Or if you take finance domain, right? For example, there is a lot of scope there. So it is penetrating into these areas. So per domain, if you consider, like there will be automation in each of the areas, that's where the AI will play a major role. Uh, I will take the last two questions. Not able to view the skills presentation. This is the skills part. You can take the screenshot if you want. How much DSA is needed for FANG companies in data science role? So in Microsoft, the guidance that we got was like if the person is really good with machine learning and deep learning concept, they have good practical background, and they are good with system design. We used to only evaluate till linked list max. Okay, so we used to make sure that the person can write the code and convert into solution. That is one problem that we used to face. Like someone will have understanding in the data science role, but when we used to ask them to code, it was very difficult for them to write code. So that was one reason where like we used to give a lot of rejections because of that. So basic coding should be good. They should be able to understand the problem, convert it to code, write good use cases. Till linked list is what we used to assess. But if I see Amazon, they also ask some binary search trees. But yeah, usually if you are good with stacks, queues, and arrays, strings, and the basic data structures, you should be good. So I'll take the last question. Balaji, I'm interested in data science, but if I get the opportunity in data analyst role, should I choose it or not? Okay. So I would say that you look at the job description and understand what is the expectation. Talk to them clearly, like what is the expectation. Some people would just hire data analyst for data annotation or manual thing. It is not bad, but the career growth will be slow in that case. If the company is good and then you believe that you can get there and then you can switch the domain, switch the career path later, that is a good option. But I would say minimum choose like the company which expects you to do some programming, basic programming, some SQL, and some Power BI or any reporting techniques. That will be a good starting point for a data analyst. So yeah, so I think I try to cover most of the patterns. Yeah, so that's it for today. Okay, handsome boy. This name is interesting, so I'll answer your question. I'm good at ML, but want to learn deep learning. Yes, sure. So I can you can book an consultation session with me. You can start reading, doing the basic important courses. You can do self learning, and then yeah, there is so much work happening in the deep learning space. You can pick one space and explore that. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Okay, bye. All the very best for everyone and have a happy weekend. Thank you.